The Everton midfielder Dele Alli has been opening up to Gary Neville on the overlap on a wide-ranging interview. Ali has revealed he spent 6 weeks in rehab after becoming addicted to sleeping pills. He also shares that he almost retired at the age of 24 and also discusses his traumatic childhood. For more on these revelations, our host from the next show, alongside Alex Crook, Sam Matterface, joins us here in the studio because you've been watching it. And I should point out, you've come in and I can see you've got tears in your eyes. You have found it a very difficult watch.
I thought it was really emotional. I thought it was an emotional, heart-wrenching interview, brilliantly candid with Gary, actually. And, Gary's done a lot of these overlap interviews, and if you've watched the tone of them beforehand, they're always quite funny, entertaining, and often revealing. I mean, we had the big exclusive that he did with Gary, with Harry Kane a year ago, in which they talked about the potential move to Manchester City, and it was... that was a huge exclusive at the time. This is a completely different interview, and it's not nice. It's not a nice watch. I mean, it's an important watch, and I think if you get the opportunity, please go and watch it. It's 43 minutes long. In it, Dele Alli gives you, I think, an explanation as to why he hasn't fulfilled the potential that we all know that he's had over the course of the last 4 or 5 years. He was just come out of rehab. He's been in rehab in America for 6 weeks. He's been addicted to sleeping pills, and he says that the reason that he's been addicted to sleeping pills is because he's had to numb the pain of a trauma from his childhood. And it is a incredibly horrific story, which he goes into during the interview. He says that he got to the point where he was taking the sleeping pills, not just to sleep after a game, because you know what it's like when you've been to... You've played a match and the adrenaline is pumping through your veins. It's very difficult to sleep. I mean, listen, we all find it difficult after watching a match or being, part of a broadcast team for a match to go to sleep straight after a night game. If you've been playing in that game, the amount of adrenaline that's pumping around your body, it takes hours, right?
Yes.
So a lot of the times the doctors will give them a sleeping pill. And he says, that's just normal. That happens. But he got to the point where he was taking them throughout the whole day. Because it was fixing for him a thing that he didn't think that he was going to be able to fix. So, he says ultimately, but football was great, right? Football's great. It's brilliant. You're in the limelight. When things are going well, it's terrific. But there are times when it ain't so great. And it is a fight every day. And I remember speaking to loads of professionals, and you know this as well. And everybody knows that to get to the top of the game, to play in the Premier League, you have to be a special personality. You have to have that fight in you. Because every day someone's coming after you. Every day someone is pushing you to the limit. And that's the side of it that we don't see. And he says, look, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. At the end of the day, I know that I've got an opportunity that not many other people have had. But ultimately, that doesn't mean it doesn't take its toll behind the scenes. And one of the things that he talks about, because of his childhood, because of the fact that his mother had addiction problems, because of the fact that his father lived in a completely different country to him, because of the fact that he was dealing drugs at 8 years of age, and that he was molested at 6, and that he was swung off a bridge by someone at 11 from a different estate, because he was sent to Africa to learn discipline because he was tagged as a bad child, that he's been suppressing those emotions, and therefore the stuff that you saw on the pitch, the stuff that you see now where he's going off and doing his partying, is all a byproduct of the fact that he's trying to suppress those emotions. And I think, we're all the same, and there's no way that any of us can turn around and say that we're not and that we don't rush to judgment, because we do. You do it, I do it, we all do it, because we see one side of a story and we think we all know the answers. And this interview tells you don't.
Goodness, I mean, just listening to what you said there and just the idea of what he went through his childhood has just brought tears to my eyes. To have a child, we all have children. Yeah. We know what that's like to be a parent, and to know that your child has gone through such suffering. Oh, honestly, it just puts tears in my eyes. You can see now, can't you,
why, he's got them demons and the struggles he's going through, and now I think everyone who's, said bad words about him will think, what? The poor lad, what he's been going through. You can see, can't you? You can see. And I sort of knew about the sleeping pills before. I never mentioned it because I never wanted to speak about his private life. And it must be a horrible addiction he's got to them.
Yeah, he says he's got sober from that now.
Good.
And there is some good news here, I think. And the good news is that he feels he's got his passion back for the game. He thinks Sean Dyche and Everton have been absolutely brilliant with him, by the way. He's currently injured. One of the things that caused him more problems, I think, was the fact that he got injured when he was in Turkey, and he knew he had to have an operation, which, once you sort of start getting yourself into that zone, then all of a sudden another setback, it can take its toll. It feels like knock after knock after knock after knock. But this is still a young man. This is still someone who can achieve some of his dreams in football. And do you know what? I mentioned it on the show yesterday, and we didn't know about this then. We were talking about, the possibility of Everton and the problems that Everton have got, financially. And we were saying, well, maybe they can use him again. Maybe they can get the best out of him. Maybe Sean Dyche can get the best out of him. Well, maybe that is the case. Because he talks about the way that Mauricio Pochettino dealt with him. And he said, because of his problems in his private life, what he found really difficult. And again, this is something you would have experienced. Is managers come in, they say things to you, and if they don't say things in the right way, you either believe them or you don't believe them, right? And he said one of the issues is people have conversations with me, I just think they're fake, so I don't buy into it. Don't buy into it. But Mauricio Pochettino was not like that. He liked him as a person first, and then as a footballer, and then allowed him to express himself.
And that's how you're going to get the best out of him. Like he says, Pochettino got the best out of him. Managers after Pochettino didn't, because they were fake to him. So I hope he can get back on track now, after becoming sober from the pills. And you don't become a bad player overnight, Sam. He's still that player that he was under Pochettino. And I'm sure Sean Dyche can get him a great pre-season, getting firing, and hopefully everyone wants to see him now back scoring goals, late runs into the box, scoring goals for Everton.
There's lots of other issues that spin off from this, and stuff we'll be exploring from 10 o'clock this morning. One of the things that he suggests really early in the interview is that he's not the only one who's got a problem with sleeping pills. He says he thinks it is commonplace in the game, and that's a real worry.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, you can see why players take it, because of that adrenaline. They need to sleep. They need to make sure they get as much rest as possible. And it clearly is an issue if he's talking about it. But he does say he's mentally in a better place. Which is what the key message is from all of this. And also, does he not mention, I think he does, about wanting to help others as a result of this?
Look, he says, there'll be a lot of people that write a lot of stories and talk about this a lot. He said he understands that's going to happen. And usually he would be in a situation where he doesn't care what people write, don't care what people say. He actually only did the interview because he thought that someone was going to break the story anyway, and he thought that actually what he wanted to do was tell the truth of the situation rather than somebody else putting the spin of it. And he said one of the things of his career has been that he's allowed people to write what they want, and he just doesn't care because he thinks, I know the truth and that's all that matters. And there's a bit of an ego about that, he said. But now he said, I want to tell you what's really happening. So one, you understand, but also you might understand that if you're in the situation that I'm in, then you know that getting help does help. Reaching out does help.
Yes.
He says about his time in rehab, one of the things that he says, I think we all think as humans we're unique. Each one of us is unique, and you haven't got the same problems as me, and you haven't got the same problems as me, and that person over there hasn't got the same problems as me, and the person who works over there is different and whatever, and they don't experience what I experience. And he said, you go into rehab and you speak to people from all different walks of life for about 10 minutes, and you realise, everyone's got the same problem as me, and everyone feels the same way. And ultimately, the only way we get over these things as human beings is by talking about it together and being together, because we're not a species, we're not people that are supposed to be alone.
talkSPORT Breakfast, waking you up Monday to Friday morning from 6 a.m. on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.